Welcome everyone to this week's Sunday after church tea time. My name is Fabian and we have a wonderful crew with us here today. We have Dennis and Nicole, we have Daniel and Christina, we have Drake. And yeah, welcome, welcome. Let's talk about our Sunday service, about prayer. And this is a time where we can really come together and share about our experiences and what it does for us. Whenever I watch a Sunday service, I receive something from it. And it is this receiving, it is this gift that we can today unravel, you know, and talk about and maybe share our own perspective on that gift that we receive each week. And I would like to really start by that beautiful quote from Shaleia that Abir mentioned about the right attitude when you approach God. That you come with the idea of not knowing anything. And it reminds me of Chrissy always saying to empty your cup, you know, to start from a clean slate. Every day is a new opportunity. And when we embody that, you know, that, oh, my cup is empty before God, then we can really be a vessel for God, because now we are like humble and okay, God, I have to assume that I don't know anything. And so please show me. And then love is with us, right? And with love, we know everything. That was a quote. Yeah. How do you guys feel about that quote or the Sunday service today?
Yeah, for me, that was actually eye-opening for me because it's something that I never really considered. Um, I feel like in my life, I've talked with God like growing up and, from the time I was very young, but I never really considered that there was an appropriate way to approach God. Obviously, you do it with some level of respect and love, but I never really considered that it was important um, to place myself in a position where, yeah, I don't know, and I receive from God. God knows. And I found that to be extremely powerful and is definitely something I will work on. It feels really good to receive that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Any other feelings or effects from that Sunday service? I feel like Dennis has something here.
Yeah, I was just about to unmute. I was thinking about that. I was actually watching a TFAS class with Jeff and Shia talked about this not that long ago. I think it was the one called The Atonement. And they talked about how there's this same concept of how you have to approach God with like this attitude of I don't know anything, and that you only know something when God tells you that you know something, and that you also have to keep an open mind that even when God told you that you know something, if he tells you later that you don't know it anymore, then you have to let go of this like hold on to like believing that you know it and be open to maybe not knowing it even when before you kind of knew it or thought you knew it. And I feel for me that just has a lot to do with being humble, and just always, even when it comes to your inner work and when it comes to finding out who you are, to just be like, I don't know who I am, I don't know how everything works, maybe I don't even know who my twin flame is, like all of this stuff. And to just be basically at this ground zero, as you know, Chrissy said, you mentioned, like have this like empty cup and just allow God to fill it without like being attached to anything. I feel like, yeah, that's just very important and also liberating. I perceive it as really liberating, because you can, like, this responsibility that you might feel of like having to know stuff, and you know, you can just give that to God and be like, okay, I don't have to know, I'm just this kid, my dad knows. And when I don't know something, I just call on Dad and ask him to give me the information, the knowledge, the experience that I need to understand. Yeah, that's my piece.
Very beautiful. Yeah, it gives this image where you are like this child of God, and you are on this big playground, and you don't have to worry about a thing. You know, you can just be really innocent in your self-expression, and whenever there's something that you don't know or that you need, you can just be like, hey Dad, you know, what's with this, and what does this mean, and what's the next thing, what's the next fun thing to do.
Mm-hmm. And now that you mention that, you know, it almost has something, it has like this childlike attitude. Like when we look at young children, they're literally going around asking, why is the sky blue? Why is the grass green? Why is this? Why is that? And, you know, it's just like this innocence of like children exploring the world for the first time and coming from a place of like not really knowing anything. And I feel like that's kind of the attitude that we have to display when it comes to our spiritual learning and process and journey, to be like childlike and explore it anew for the first time.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Dennis. That's really, really powerful. I like how you said that it's like a childlike nature. I remember what came to me is like in the Bible, it says, and I'm heavily paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact scripture, but it says something along the lines of, like to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must be like a child. And I feel like what came up for me is, yeah, having that like childlike nature and just not knowing anything is what allows God to fully support you in every aspect. Because when you don't know anything, then you receive everything from God. And I feel like, yeah, it's really juicy, and I love that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think this is what Jesus shared, right? This like before, like to enter the kingdom of heaven, you want to be childlike, you know, very innocent, like a child. That's awesome. So I think this gives us a really good initial feeling, you know, of like, oh, this is what it means to be a child of God. And this is the right foundation from where we can really connect with God and pray to God. It's a surrendered state. It's a childlike and innocent state. And here we are one with our Creator, with our Father, with God. And this is a foundation of life. You know, from this point, this is where we live from this attitude. And this is like the default, basically. I wanted to ask Drake if, you know, there was anything coming up for you or, you know, standing out for you from the service today.
What stood out to me the most was like when Abir was talking about like going to God but like surrendering, like it's basically prayer is like a state of surrender, and I thought it was very important because you can kind of tell like when you're going to God from a place of surrender or when you're going to God from like a state of like neediness or like wanting something, and it like completely changes how like you talk to God. But it just reminded me that like surrendering when you're praying is like it's like a deeper relationship with God. Like you're choosing to go deeper in that. And what image keeps coming to my mind is kind of, I think it's like Jesus and this little child, and little child has this like little teddy bear, and Jesus has like this huge teddy bear, and he's like, "Do you trust me?" And you know, the little girl's like clutching on to like her little teddy bear, but God wants to give her like, you know, everything. And it just reminded me, like, when you're not going to God from like a state of surrender, he can't, like Daniel said, he can't really give you what you want, you know. And I've experienced that, you know, just the difference of like going to God because I want something or just surrendering. Like I remember, I think it's like 2 weeks ago, and I was just praying, like just like letting everything out, you know, feeling all my feelings. And I was just like, you know, God, like I need a miracle. Like, and it wasn't from a place of neediness, which is like, I surrender like to whatever it is, but I'm just asking you for this. And then like 3 hours later, something happened. And I kind of was like, oh, like sometimes it's not that I forget that God's listening, but it's just like, it's a nice reminder that he's always listening, you know, that he's always there and he's always hearing you, even if you think that he doesn't hear you. And I feel really just safe and secure knowing that he is always listening. It's a very good feeling. And yeah, a lot of those moments have been happening lately. I'm just like, I ask God, or I'm just like talking to God, and then something will happen, and I'm like, oh, okay, so this is how you do it. You know, just being like completely surrendered to what happens and how it happens, but knowing that God is giving you what you want, and he has your best interest in mind. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Drake. There's so much in it what you shared. You know, maybe let's begin with this meme, with this Jesus meme. And I maybe you have seen it. You know, I think we have seen it here. Like you mentioned it. There's a huge teddy bear behind Jesus' back, and he's like, "Hey, give me your small and tiny teddy bear, you know, but trust me, you know." And that was also coming up in the Sunday service with this amazing fakir story. You know, when you pray for rain, where's your umbrella? You know, it's the same kind of thing where you basically you trust God. And this is such a beautiful relationship to develop, where you really have that trust of, okay, this is my choice. This is what I'm doing with God. I'm choosing rain. I'm choosing my heaven on earth. And since I know God and I came to know God and I can trust my Father, I know it's already with me right now. This desire came from him in the first place, you know? Yeah, so that it gives a really good feeling. So there's a moment where we have to let go of that small teddy bear, you know, of these things that we held really close, thinking that, I'm unsure, you know, if there's anything better, but I'm not really content with that small teddy bear or with that mud figure I made, you know. So I can just let go of all of that stuff and open up to receiving what really is worthy of me.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, what that brings up for me, I wrote a quote down, which I thought was really powerful in relation to, like how you said, opening up to receiving what you're asking for. And Abir, she quoted Jeff saying, "You always get what you want," or maybe it was Shaleia, "You always get what you want, and you are always getting what you want. Mm-hmm. If you don't have it, you don't really want it." And that means, right, that God is like always in a constant state of giving to you. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have it, then you're not open to receiving it. And that really was very powerful for me. It makes me really want to like go into my consciousness, and there's things that I desire and there's things that I want, but they're not manifest yet. So why don't I want them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important, like when you do feel into that, and when you feel into like you can feel that part of you that like, oh yeah, this part of me that doesn't want it. And a lot of the time it's like you're holding on to a belief about yourself, or you're holding on to, like, just like for some reason you've tricked yourself into thinking like, I don't want it because of whatever reason, and that's serving me somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really powerful for us. So changes my whole outlook on things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it actually brings clarity on the difference between want and desire too. I feel like when you desire something, I feel like you're open to receiving it, but when you want something, you feel like you lack, so you're not open to receiving that from God.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to say I really love what you said about God being in a constant state of giving to you. That was really mind-blowing for me right now, and it's so beautiful to just know that God's literally just waiting there, being like, I just want to give to you, my child, just take it all. And it's just like, as Christina like mentioned, resolving these like parts of us that are like, because it's just us putting up the wall to receiving. And it's just as one of the first sentences in the Course in Miracles came to mind, where it says like, this course is not to teach you the meaning of love, but merely to help you dissolve any blocks you have to love. And like, love is already there and we can have it all, and we just have like our blocks that are literally preventing it from flowing in. And yeah, it just makes it so much easier. Like, we don't have to be like, never feel like we're in a state of lack, because it's right always there, and all we have to do is take the wall down and it can flow in.
And how can one, or how can you let that wall crumble? Like, how does it work practically?
Make a new choice, do the mirror exercise, love yourself.
Yeah, it's okay if it's easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's okay if it's the same thing over and over again, purification of our consciousness. Very good. I feel that someone has a next piece here.
Yeah, one thing I feel like we could touch on is what does it mean to, well, Abir touched on like an important piece is that that Yogananda mentioned about praying with devotion and being devoted in your prayer. So I feel like that's an important piece that we could discuss here also. What does it mean, to pray with devotion and to be devoted to God in your prayer? Yeah, for me, I feel like it's related to receiving. Like, you give to God in your prayer by like humbling yourself and praying to God, you're giving to God, right? And I feel like it's like a relationship. Every time you're praying to God, you're building that relationship. And like any relationship that's founded, like built on love, there should be devotion. It's like a two-way street. And if you're only like asking from God, you're not giving to God with your prayers, then I feel like it's like a one-sided relationship. So for me, it's like being open to like giving to God and building that relationship by praying, by being willing to give to God there with your prayers.
Yeah, I think it has to do with your intention.
Yeah.
And I think it has to do with like deepening your understanding of what your relationship to God means.
Yeah.
Because like that's how you give to God, is by like properly honoring your relationship with God. Because God
Amen.
technically doesn't need anything, right? but you give to your relationship with God by like properly honoring it.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Oh, I saw Nicole had the finger on the mouse unmute button.
Okay.
Thank you, Fabian. For me, praying was always having a conversation with God. It was not just about telling him how sad I am and what struggles I have and such things. It was always like, hey God, this is my point of view, and what have you to say about this? And I shared my feelings because I had fights too, so I sometimes was not nice, but it was always like, what do you say about that, and how can I resolve that? It's about opening up yourself. Christina talked about being in the plane and having the pinky promise thing, you know, and yeah, and it's like that's how to, for me, that's how to build a relationship with God. It's like seeing him in the nature and knowing that he knows you, that he knows what favorite color you have and what favorite flowers you have, and when you see the flowers you like the most, it's like, oh God, thank you, I love you too. And when you see a rainbow in the morning, it's like, oh, good morning, God. It's like, that's praying for me too. It's not just reading a text and being humble, just like in the unworthiness state. It's about loving him, because that's how you give to God when you love him, and when you say, that is how I feel, and that is what I'm going through right now, and what's your answer? Does it make sense?
I feel like what you're really pointing out is to have like an authentic relationship with God, and know that God wants to have a relationship with you, and that you can be like honest with God and share all of yourself with God. And God doesn't expect you to be like, oh my man, I'm meditating all day and I'm following the 10 Commandments and look at me, God. But to just, share yourself authentically, just as you would in any other relationship.
And that's reflecting everywhere.
Yeah, I've always felt that my relationship with God gets deeper when I'm like really, really honest of like, this is where I'm at, and like, I might know where I need to get to, but I'm just like, this is where I am, God. And it's always when I admit that, and like when I like am really just honest with myself too, with myself and with God about like, this is how I feel. That's actually, that always deepens my relationship with God, because now I give God an opening, as opposed to like telling myself like, no, I'm somewhere else, like, because then you're being inauthentic and you're not giving God an opening to really help you and to love you, right?
Thank you for that. It really provides a surrendered state, and laying everything down before God, and accepting the situation as it is right now and expressing it. There's nothing that needs to be hidden there. And this is the first step of the mirror exercise, right? Where you really are honest and you are really clear on, hey, I'm not feeling good there, and this is what it is, so let's resolve this, God. Very good. Drake, I feel like you may have something here.
Yeah, I'm just grounding. That's why I'm kind of a little quiet. But yeah, I just like when I think about prayer, I think about it's something that you're just doing constantly. Like you're always, because you're just always communicating with God. You know, like Dennis said, you don't have to like sit down and just like, okay, I'm meditating, right? It's like this conscious thing. You're always doing it, right? You're always having a relationship with God everywhere, in nature, and you, like with your body, everywhere. There's no place that God isn't. So when you allow yourself to really open up to that, you're allowing yourself to experience like God and your life on a deeper level. And I think that's very important. Because if you're like denying yourself of that, or you're kind of ignoring where God wants to be with you, because God will tell you, you'll know where you're ignoring like a part of your life that God wants to put you. It's just not going to feel good. And when you release that resistance, you're allowing yourself to receive, right? Like Christina is saying, well, maybe there's a wall that you're putting up to having everything you want. Well, you can look there and say, oh, well, this is where I'm ignoring God. This is where I need to let God in. And when you do that, you're going to feel a lot better. And I find that when I'm not like opened up to having God in every area of my life, like other parts will suffer or like won't feel good. Because you're supposed to have God everywhere, you know, and like that's the truth. So yeah, I just think it's prayer is very powerful, and everybody should open up to having that relationship with God.
Life really, supports you in praying and creating and deepening the relationship to God, and we can learn to proactively deepen that on our own terms, with a spiritual practice, which accelerates everything and makes it much smoother for us. Or, life puts us through the grinding stone, and ultimately we end up in the same place anyway. So, learning that lesson really helps you to have a better time on your journey when you are like proactively desiring that relationship with God and like having that conversation with God as well. So there was something in that Yogananda quote, but let's hear from Daniel first.
Oh, yeah. All I was gonna say is, talking about the relationship with God is I liked how Abir said that like you've actually always had this relationship with God. You're just working to remember the relationship that you've had with God this whole time. And I thought that was really beautiful because it's like nothing is ever really lost. Like you never really lose anything. You've only just forgotten like parts of yourself through distraction or whatever, upset or whatever, and you're really just uncovering the joyous relationship you've had with God this whole time. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. I thought that was really beautiful.
We know God, right? We know God. We know this feeling of God, and this really triggered a beautiful like feeling of connection. What you shared about that remembrance, remembering God and feeling that, when you remember something, it's like this, it has always been here, this hidden realm, but it's so, how do you say, like you know it, it's so familiar to you. Yeah, it fills you up. Even talking about this thing, it fills you up with life. Mm-hmm. Any other comments on remembering God? If not, there was something in that Yogananda quote I feel I have not fully grasped yet. So the quote basically was indicating that prayer wants to be filled with devotion, right? And okay, how do you do that? How do you fill a prayer with devotion?
So the first thing that's coming to me, and it's not quite like clear in my mind yet, but I'm just gonna share. It's kind of like praying to God for God, like having the intention of your prayer be more God in your life, and not like I'm gonna pray to God to give me this thing, so then I'm happy about it. I'm gonna pray to God so He guides me to be closer to Him. Like my prayer is a devotion to God by me choosing to devote my life to Him. And I pray for Him to guide me to how I devote my life to Him and how I get closer to Him.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, it hit me like as soon as you said it, like I was like, oh, I see. Like it's about the intention and choosing a relationship with God. It's like choosing a relationship with God. Right when you said like talking to God, it's like the difference between talking to God and talking with God. Like choosing to be active in that relationship and to have every part of your consciousness filled with God. I love that. Yeah, thank you.
I'm still taking it in. There was there was something clicking.
I'm taking it too. I said it and I was like, whoa, okay, what was that?
Yeah. That's nice. Thank you for that. Okay, so that's how you fill a prayer with devotion. Now we know. So it's a choice, right? It's a talking with God and feeling that connection and like having that relationship and desiring God for God and not for His gifts. That's very important. And in that quote, there was another part, right? There was something with the only benefit, I don't know that English term, like basically the only source of good is God. And connecting that with that devotion, I feel there's a feeling here that I want to express, and it's basically going all in with God, that there's nothing else but God. And it's about releasing attachments to everything else that is holding you back. And in that, there you find the devotion. In that, like, okay, there is only God. There's nothing else I'm leaving behind, So this is the only good I have, the only source of good I have. And this is what I strive for. This is what I want to ground my life into peacefully. Because there's nothing else, and that fills me with devotion unto itself.
I had another quote from Yogananda come to mind from this small book called How to Talk with God. And at the very front page is this quote. I don't remember it like by word, but it was something along the lines of, you have to realize that God is your only and greatest desire. And I feel like, what you were speaking to is like literally like purifying your consciousness to the point where you really feel and embody this state of God is my only and greatest desire.
Thank you for that. Yeah, the beauty about these quotes is that you can really, have them here in front of you and feel into them and, let them work on your consciousness. There's a lot of wisdom in them. And you have a relationship with that consciousness that stated the quote when you feel into it. All right. We have a question here. And the question is, what is the difference between talking to God and talking with God, that Daniel said? So talking with God, talking to God, what is the difference?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Thank you. What was coming to me like when I realized that is I felt like talking to God feels like a one-sided relationship. It behaves like you're not willing to receive from God anything from God. You're just like driving your points, your thoughts, to God. But talking with God feels like inclusive. It feels like union. It feels like a back and forth relationship, which feels much, much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you're at peace, like you're like with God, like, or surrendered, you're with God, right? And you're open to whatever comes in, whatever God, brings to you. When you're like, something that was coming up for me is like when you are finding yourself in that state of like, you really want something, that's a space to do the mirror exercise, because like what you always really want is more God, but like there's just something there that's like in the way of you really feeling that and believing that. And so yeah, like that's the place where you do the mirror exercise and really come to peace in that place, so then you're once again with God. That's what makes sense to me, I guess. Yeah.
Love it.
I also want to say something about that. In my past, I was talking to God in a point of, am I worthy of your love, God? Because sometimes we project things or experiences of God, and we think that God wants something from us to be worthy of his love. And this is talking to God for me as well. And is it okay, God? I'm the love, I'm the life. Do you see how much I love you, God? And just like this. And this is talking to God as well. And Jeff and Shaleia teach us that having a relationship with God is opening yourself up, like Fabian says, being devoted, but not being suppressed like this. It's being devoted, just like, okay, I'm ready to whatever you want me to know, wherever you want me to lead, whatever you want me to receive, I'm okay, and I trust you. This is talking with God. It's like, I invite you to let me know what you want me to know right now. I invite you to tell me where I have to go, what's my next step. And this is, for me, talking with God and talking to God. There are two sides, and the one coin is just like, God, I want something, and my life is just like this, and these are my problems. And the other side is like, is it okay? Am I allowed? Do I do it right? But it's not like, do I do it right? Can you see? It's, do I do it right? And then wait for what comes. Do I do it right? And then opening up and say, okay, breathe, relax, and wait. Not even think. This is having a conversation with God for me.
It's like approaching him from the knowing that you are divine and you are his child, and he loves you and claims you and wants to provide for you perfectly.
That was so beautiful what you shared there, guys. Thank you for that. And it's really this state that you are connecting to as you pray with God, we should say now. Pray with God. It's this distinction that we are making, right? Of like really having God involved and using him as a like guide stone, you know, like, okay, so there's like an ideal of right actions for me, and there's an ideal of, it's basically aligning yourself to that. There's God, and he's like in like the perfect alignment, you know, and you're like doing your thing, and then you're like just checking if, oh, am I aligned? Am I in perfect alignment there? And this is what the mirror exercise does, right? It's like, I feel some tension here. I feel some suppressed feelings there. And that doesn't feel so good. So I'm not in alignment there. Inviting God there brings me back into alignment. Ultimately, there is only perfect alignment left. And then we are finally arrived home.
Another thing that just came to my mind is I have a beautiful meditation from Sama that is called a Divine Connection meditation. And at the very end, she has this sentence that every time I listen, oh my God, this sentence, which is basically that every time when you call out to God, it's because he called out to you first. And I find that so beautiful to like know, like every time when I call out to God, I approach him to pray with him, it's because he approached me, called out to me, chose to receive my prayer or be in that space with me first. And I'm just literally answering his call.
We thought that was beautiful. We just wanted to say that. Thank you.
It was very beautiful. And it reminded me of this, like you take one step toward God, he takes 1,000 steps toward you. But even more so that you crying out to God, you know, is God crying out to you. It's the same one thing. You crying out to your guru is your guru crying out to you, the same one thing. Safe to take a second to take that in, what we have shared so far. And from that, let's talk about if there's anything from the Sunday service that is coming up for us that we feel like, you know, mentioning, talking about, and sharing a bit.
Okay, I think I have something. We just had group coaching with Jeff just before the Sunday service today, and something that he mentioned in that group coaching, really came up for me too while listening to the sermon. And it was this whole concept of like, be careful when you demand something of God, because he's always going to deliver when you demand something, but what you demand might not be good for you and actually not make you happy and just be a waste of your time and energy. And you know, I feel like that I've experienced that in my life, definitely, where I was, hey, I want this, God, give it to me. And then God gave it to me. I was like, okay, this sucks. Why? And I feel like, you know, even when it comes to prayer, it's like just like praying from a surrendered state, like going deeper into that, meaning that like when I pray, I'm always like, okay, God, I have this problem. Please help me solve this in a way that's like that's like the highest good for me. Instead of being, I want it to be this way, I want a specific thing, I want a specific outcome, I want it to go this way, just be like, I need a solution, I want to change, I want to whatever, and make it happen in the highest good for all. And then just basically surrender and let God do his part in whatever way he sees fit.
Yeah, thank you for that. So what it reminds me of is that yeah, you surrender. You know, you're like, this is what I think I want. I think I want this. You know, I'm open to receiving it. If it's in my highest interest, I'm open to receiving something else entirely. If that's better, God. So, you know, here all of my what I think are my desires. You know, maybe some of these are attachments. Just, you know, take everything. And, you know, whatever is divine, please deliver it to me. I'm happy about that. Yeah, and sometimes, you know, things are a hidden blessing. You know, sometimes you have to get clear on what happened back then, and then you realize, oh, actually, this was exactly what I needed. You know.
You're always getting exactly what you need. Like always. And so I think like when you know that, when you really, really know that like you're always getting exactly what you need, then you're even willing to receive the things that like don't feel immediately amazing, because it's actually giving you something to work through and get clear and helps you get closer to the truth and like clarity and peace, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I think it's all like coming together. Like I can see like what Fabian just shared about being honest with God and say like I think that this is what I want, you know, and I maybe there's attachments there, maybe it doesn't serve me, but I, you know, I surrender this to you, and you know, God will give you what you need instead, like you said, and yeah, I think that's like really powerful, like because yeah, there have definitely been cases where I thought I knew what I wanted and God gave it to me and it was just like, oh, okay, that was not good, like that isn't really what was best for me. So yeah, I definitely it gives me a lot to like think about there. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff mentioned in a coaching that there's a difference between something that is pleasant and something that is good, and you want to differentiate these two. You know, it's like the poison honey. Tastes kind of good, but it's poison. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, we have a couple minutes left. Is there anything else coming up?
One thing that's coming up for me with all this like surrendering and everything is just that it's okay to have desires and to want things and to honor that you have these desires. Like it's not like I'm just going to throw all of my desires out of the way and God's just going to bring whatever he thinks. Like your desires are there for a reason and God put them there, and it's safe to have that, feel that, and follow them. But it's like, you know, desiring in a surrendered state. It's like the mix between desire and surrender. That is like the secret sauce to everything you desire.
The secret sauce to success. It reminds me of something. Maybe the last Sunday service. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, is there anything else coming up? There's this one feeling I'm still processing. There's something still getting clear on it. what I feel like sharing is that it's really about a grounded approach. God is not something to get high, but something to enjoy peace with. God is not necessarily that high feeling, even though God is the most high, right? But it's a peaceful relationship. And that came up in yesterday's group coaching with Jeff, that, it was time for like some grounding, for some integration, for some peace, since the group coaching before that was extremely high. And the same as your twin flame is an ascension tool, which is peaceful. God is also very peaceful. And I have for a long time mistaken the high feeling for God. I was very good at chasing the high feeling. This is a high feeling. I'm following. But there was always where's the high feeling now? It's gone. So I was afraid of reaching that point with God. Okay, God, I followed you the whole time. Where are you gone suddenly? But God never runs out. If you really are following God rather than the high feeling, you are filled with what you actually want, and that is peace.
Yeah, thank you for that. That definitely resonated with me. There was like a day recently where I was like very high, and like the feeling felt good for a while, but it didn't, like after a while I realized that being that high and being like ungrounded didn't feel good. Like it was like feeling good without feeling good, and if that makes sense. And the only way to get like to actually feel good again was like to ground back to peace, like to go back to God in that peaceful place. And yeah, that perfectly like speaks to like God isn't the high. Like the high isn't what you're chasing. Like what you're actually desiring is peace, because that's what's best for you. Yeah. Thank you.
But God's always with you.
Right.
Like you don't leave God.
You don't leave God.
God's always with you. It's just more
a
like
of,
you lose presence with an ungrounded high feeling. And so it's like God's always there.
Yeah.
It's like always with you, but like you just like, it's like you just lose your presence, and your presence is like where like all of your like power and peace comes from.
Yeah.
Strong as the mountain, right? Which is really calm and grounded. Yeah. So let's maybe ground today's Sunday service for the remaining time we have today. And I'm not talking about a meditation necessarily. I'm just talking about maybe, summarizing the essence, like coming to a conclusion, wrapping everything up. For everything that we've shared so far, there was a lot of cool insights. So how do you talk about something like that in a grounded way? How would you approach that? What is coming up for me actually is that it's from your presence, as long as you are connected to that presence, whatever you are sharing is grounded. So today's Sunday service and our discussion helped me personally in like, feeling safe with God. And being accepting of my relationship as it is right now, and desiring to listen more, to get to know more, to explore more, and not making something out of it that it isn't, but to, empty my cup and enjoy that presence and basically get to know this relationship to God. And practically this means to feel feelings and to be present and to remember God, to do the mirror exercise, and to really see when I was unpresent, to choose presence again. Oh, and there was one other thing I learned in a coaching with Jeff, is that it is not a one-time thing. It is not an act of surrender, even though an act of surrender is powerful and healing, but it is a state of surrender. It's a being. You're in a state of surrender the whole time. Any other comments here?
I have one. I mean, that's what I was going to say. Like, the first thing that came to my mind was just like, what I took away from like this service was just living in a constant state of surrender and being like just surrendered. Because that's how you can like really talk to God. It's just being surrendered. And yeah, it feels good to do that. And this I don't know if this is like a quote, but this is just something that Jeff said, and it keeps replaying in my mind, so I feel like I need to say it. But it's like he was talking about, like, you can talk to God and you can be like, God, I want this, God, I want that, like, why aren't you giving me this, or just like demanding. I don't know if you guys saw this. And then but the way that he, like, how he talks to God, or how you should talk to God, is like, God, am I doing this right? God, am I serving you? God, how can I serve you more? Right? Like, he's constantly living surrendered. He's like, God tells me to do something and I'll do it. Right? Like, whatever it is, I'll do it. Like, I surrender to him. Right? He was saying, what did he even say? He was like, yeah, if you told me to get divorced right now, I would. Like, that's just how surrendered he is to God. Like, his highest priority is God. And yeah, like that's like complete devotion to God. I think like when I think of complete devotion to God, I think of like Jeff and Shaleia, because they're just like completely 100% devoted, and they will, if God tells them to do something, they do it, like no hesitation whatsoever. So,
yeah. Amen. Any other closing comments before we go? All right, I feel pretty complete. And if you guys feel complete as well, I thank you so much for being here and for sharing and for, just contributing and participating in this after church tea time. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this week. I hope you all enjoyed today's Sunday service and our after church tea time. Please enjoy the rest of your Sunday and have a wonderful year and, beginning of 2021, and we will see you guys around. Bye bye.